Hello everybody, my name is Spoons Rattling, and welcome to another video covering perhaps the most iconic form of Godzilla ever, in Heisei Godzilla. This is of course the Godzilla that would appear in 1984, and would continue to have movies made until 1995, where he would meet his death. This Godzilla was created but from a mutated dinosaur that lived on the Bikini Islands that was of course caught in a nuclear test shortly after World War II, and would come ashore in 1984, and would lay waste to Japan. The Heisei Godzilla signified a return to the original intention of Godzilla, being much more terrifying and, in general, more aggressive than his silly Showa-era counterpart. He would act as a belligerent savior to Japan, as well as perhaps its greatest threat throughout the 80s and 90s, until, of course, his series came to an end to make way for another Godzilla to take his place. Let's get into his abilities, of course. Now, Heisei Godzilla is a heavyweight kaiju because he's 100 meters tall. He has strong durability, as you'd expect from any Godzilla, and he has very powerful attacks, which is, again, fitting for Godzilla. He has very high durability, a strong regeneration factor to back it up, and he's very resilient to pain, even from getting skewered on Biolante's tendrils, or getting acid spit through his hand, and so forth. He was able to tank it and keep on fighting. He's extremely resilient and tenacious when it comes to combat. In terms of offense, his most used ability is, of course, his atomic breath, which was moderate to super effective against almost everyone hit by it, excluding some very powerful opponents like Mechagodzilla, who had a unique diamond coating, or synthetic diamond armor, that was able to reflect it, which was technology used by the Godzilla Defense Force to help combat Godzilla, of course. But even then, once that armor was out of the way, his heat ray would prove to be extremely effective against Mechagodzilla. Even though it had been powered up, it was still the heat ray. Let's get into his datasheet. Now, for Godzilla Heisei, he's going to have the same stats as Burning Godzilla for the most part. In terms of his base stats, they're the exact same. But he has a 4+ invulnerable save, as he isn't melting, but for that he trades off his Feel No Pain. He, of course, has his Atomic Heat Ray, which is pretty standard for a Kaiju ranged weapon, at a 36-inch range, 3d6 plus 5 shots. Torrent, of course, has Blast. It's Strike 24, AP 5, and Damage 10, so completely capable of annihilating almost anything it touches. And then the weapon unique to this version of Godzilla, or at least this datasheet of Godzilla, is the Atomic Pulse, which is a 6-inch Torrent weapon. That's Strength 15, AP 4, and Damage 5. Godzilla would use this when he was being grappled, or when he was being swarmed by smaller enemies, such as the mini Destoroyah aggregate forms that were pulling him down to the ground, or when Biolante was using her tendrils to trap him, and finally against Mecha King Ghidorah when he was being suffocated by King Ghidorah. In terms of melee, he has just his claws and tails. He did prove to be extremely strong, so I gave him 15 attacks on 2s, Strike 26, AP 4, and Damage 10. The reason that I made him so powerful in melee, despite his propensity for using his atomic breath in almost all his fights, is because when he fought, again, King Ghidorah, he grabbed him by both of his tails, lifted him clean into the air, and then slammed him back down by his tails, which, surprisingly enough, King Ghidorah didn't really like, and was really the turning point of that fight, where things started to go badly for the three-headed asshole that is King Ghidorah. And then in terms of abilities, let's get the obvious one out of the way. There can be only one. You can only have one Heisei Godzilla in your army. The reason that rule is here, and not just Epic Hero, is because there are different named versions of Heisei Godzilla, like Burning Godzilla. In terms of his standard abilities, we have Inexorable Destruction, which means that anytime this model makes an attack, you can ignore any or all modifiers to any of that attack's characteristics. I figured that since this is basic Godzilla, he doesn't have any power-ups or anything like that, he should have something like this to give him extra power, and to show that, again, this Godzilla, more than almost any other, is pretty much shown to be an inevitability, since he was literally removed from time, but still came back later, which is from Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, which is just a bit of a mind-bender of a movie. It's not my favorite Godzilla movie, but it's certainly a silly one. And then there's Psychic Fortitude. So if you don't know, this Godzilla has psychic abilities, but not in the sense of like moving things with his mind, more so telepathy and resistance to psychic abilities mainly. The Godzilla Defense Force would deploy Miki Sagusa, who was sort of the main character of the Heisei series, who was their most powerful psychic. And even when she was using gear to be powered up in terms of psychic abilities, Godzilla still would usually overpower her in the mental. So if an enemy model targets this model with a psychic ability, which you will know because the ability will have psychic in parentheses next to its name, such as the Vortex of Doom from a Brotherhood Librarian, roll a d6, and on a 1 to a 4, that ability has no effect, but on a 5+, that effect resolves normally. Then, of course, he has the Towering God. He can move through buildings. If the building is still there, or would be there, and he ends his move there, the building is instantly destroyed. And he has a 4+ invulnerable save. Keywords: Monster, Titanic, Epic Hero, Heisei Godzilla. And, of course, the faction keyword is Kaiju, which I am going to make a faction video for and make a little draft up sheet of their abilities, stratagems, stuff like that. Anyways, I've been Spoons Rattling. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.